which is the power standard in town. Just figured I'd throw that out if that changed things.
Does that create any issues, questions? Thank you.
All right, so this is a pretty simple and straightforward one. We're gonna focus our testimony on sheet A600, which you marked in as A6, the revision. We're really seeking approval for a sign package. We've already been to the planning board back in December of 2023, and they were so kind to approve site plan and use and parking variance and all that stuff, so that nothing you have to think about or consider tonight. We've got a blade sign, which is a small sign. You're gonna see it on the lower right-hand corner of the front facade on A6. My understanding is not only that it's permitted, but it meets all the specifications under your ordinance for a sign of that type. We've got two wall signs. We'll see them sort of centrally on A6. One on the first floor elevation, one on the second floor above. The review memo mentioned that we may or may not need a variance to have two of them. And look back at the sign schedule. Typically we allow one, but there's a footnote that says if you've got multiple like entrances, that you can have multiple wall signs, so long as they don't exceed the overall allowable square footage. And you will have testimony that these two signs will be within the maximum square footage of 80 square feet in the aggregate. So I think we avoid that variance, but we do need one and only one variance to have the sign on the upper portion of the building. Your ordinance says it's got to be within what's called the signable area. Signable area is defined to be below the height of the second story windows. And as you can see, we're between the second story windows. So a little bit too high up on the building. All that without variance relief. As I said, we'll have Mr. Scalise, the architect, some testimony. But in thinking about things that are important planning type considerations for a board, it occurred to me that we have kind of a big, large empty space on the second floor there between those windows. And the sign kind of nicely fills that. It creates a little bit of visual interest. And the other thing is, you might not know this because the planning board decided the prior application, but the nature of the use involves bringing some folks with special needs to the property. It's got like a training kitchen, training cafe. To my mind, it makes sense to have a little bit more of a prominent sign there. If you're having folks coming that have special needs, they might not be driving themselves. They may be relying on a family member here or there for a ride or some sort of public transport or an Uber. And it's kind of a little bit more prominent for those folks pulling down White Street or parking in your White Street lot. So we'll hear more about that from Mr. Scalise. But without further ado, let's get him sworn and give you some testimony.
Sure. Good evening. Good to see you. State your name and business address for the record.
Antonio Scalise.
Yeah, so get to the mic, please.
Antonio Scalise. My office is in Red Bank at 62 Monmouth Street.
And it's SCALISE?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. If you could just raise your right hand, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide would be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
And you're testifying in your capacity as a licensed architect?
Yes, sir.
And licenses and certifications are current and up to date and all that good stuff? Thank you.
And I should say, will the board accept Mr. Scalise as a expert in the field of architecture?
Just give us his background a little bit.
Sure. I graduated from NJIT. I'm in business and licensed 20 years. I had the pleasure of being before this board a few years ago. I don't remember when, but it was maybe 5 years ago or more. I've been all over the state of New Jersey. I'm licensed in PA, and I'm the chairman of the planning board in my town of West Long Beach.
Okay, looks up.
All right, Mr. Scalise, are you familiar with the site in question as well as the borough's ordinance with respect to signage?
Yes, sir.
Really quickly, we have A6 in front of the members of the board. It's night of, it's being sprung on them. I just want you to kind of quickly highlight the one or two changes so that they can understand what's different about what they're now seeing compared to the submission. My general understanding is it's the logo in the sign on the second floor, which used to be a robot guy and is now a cup of coffee with a gear in it. A little bit of difference on the fenestration on the lower left.
Yeah.
And then the location of the blade sign, it's moved like centrally located to the right-hand side of the facade.
Yes,
Is that accurate?
yes.
Okay, great. Any other changes of which you're aware other than those things? No. Okay. Would you just briefly describe for the board the existing conditions at this site?
Sure. So the building is a pretty plain building. It's located on the north side of White Street. It is directly across from the Borough White Street parking lot. It was formerly Hobby Masters, which I had the pleasure of going and buying materials there back.
Move the mic a little bit closer, please.
Sorry. I'm used to yelling, so. So it's the former Hobby Masters and Toy Masters site. And your planning board previously reviewed and approved the site plan, change of use and parking variance application. And the end user allowed Roco Cafe and inclusion pathways to occupy the existing building at 28 Seat Cafe, a makers and gaming space and training kitchen accessory retail on the first floor, and administrative offices and conference space on the second floor. The conference effectively vocational training and socialization opportunities for those special needs. The interior fit out is underway. In the meantime, the front facade, and what the question was, is pretty spartan. It's a very plain, kind of off-white color building. You could see that on the north side, which faces White Street, we have two windows that flank kind of bookend the space. And if you look in between, not the sign notwithstanding, there's a large blank space on the property. On the building, excuse me. We're looking to add some material and create some interest. There's an aluminum band that will most likely be a dark gray. That there's a band there now, which I think was like a light band, but this is going to become a solid band across kind of what was there before. There's the doors that are here now that we're going to create a nice horizontal aluminum wood look material, sorry. See.
Yeah, I have them.
Which is along the bottom here, and then and that's gonna be a rain screen system. So basically, the building is a solid, let's say masonry there, or that veneer. We're gonna build off of that to create this wood look. And then below that wood material, we're gonna be painting this black below. So we're creating a little bit of interest. So one of the issues that came up was the sign, which is Build and Brew, which is here on the facade. Your ordinance talks about having the sign start below what would be considered the window line of the second floor. But as you could see, it's not really practical the way this is set up here. And for interest, aesthetic purposes, trying to fill this gap. Obviously, we're raising it slightly. We don't want to go too high. We have 3 gooseneck lights that we're using here, and we're trying to fill that sign in this space to create a better aesthetic value. I think if it's any lower, it starts to compete with the horizontal band, and I don't think would look good.
And I mentioned that there was a single variance of which we're aware having to do with the height of the upper sign. Is that accurate?
There is, and I just mentioned it, that typically you want to start below the window of the upper level. But again, for aesthetic purposes, I think it's better for it to be raised. And it kind of fills that void, and I think creates a nice element for the middle there.
Just for purposes of clarity, none of these signs are proposed to be internally illuminated at all. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So you have like gooseneck type fixtures on the upper one, is that right?
Yeah, so the only sign that is proposed to have lighting would be the building brew on the building, but it's lit through the gooseneck lights. The signs below have no lighting on.
I failed to mention one other thing to the board as I'm trying to do the magic eye and compare what was submitted with what's now before them. I'm gonna call everyone's attention to the glass on the first floor, and you can see that there's some text now affixed to the glass. So I don't know that the text is final per se, but the applicant has indicated they'd like to do some text on the windows. They give a representative example of the types of things that they're offering, various things like that. I looked at your ordinance. My general understanding is that you're allowed to have window signage exempt for any approval by this board or any other board, so long as that doesn't exceed 20%. So my applicant is telling me that there's some proposal to tweak or mold or shape that, but the representation to this board is that we would not in any event exceed 20% threshold there, so that that's something that could be approved by Shauna outside of your purview. But it's just to make sure you're aware.
I'm sorry, not exceed the 20% threshold for,
Window sign or window coverage.
got it.
And specifically, he mentioned to me that in the satellite window above the doors on the right-hand side of the building, that he envisioned possibly putting the build and brew with the logo just above those doors, so long as the overall coverage didn't exceed the 20%. And Mr. Scalise, would you just would you walk me through the advanced proofs here? I mean, I mentioned aesthetic and sort of aiding in location. Can you balance that against any potential detriments you see of locating the sign between the windows as opposed to?
Sure. So architecturally, we believe that the location of the sign between the two windows provides the best aesthetic benefit that we can see and outweighs any detriments to the intent of the ordinance. And again, I don't think we really want it to be in conflict of this horizontal band. The building is somewhat unique. It's a flat facade. It is very just plain, if you will. There's not much architectural detail, so the hope is that, you know, what would be considered, let's say, a drab building, you kind of have some color elements, nothing crazy, but just to give some architectural detail. We believe the location of the sign between the windows provides visual interest, and again, it fills that otherwise the void. Additionally, because the use will routinely bring those with special needs to the site. We believe that the prominence of the sign, so being slightly higher, creates a general welfare and safety issue. It's very easy to see it. It'll be easily recognizable from a distance from the parking lot potentially, which is a benefit. Because the site is located directly across the street from parking, we do believe there will be no such substantial detriment to the public good or subsequently impair the intent or the purpose of the zone. I mean, I think we feel that it's kind of for the intent of this specifically, I think we meet the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance.
Something that occurred to me as I was getting ready this evening is being situated across from the White Street lot. The building's a little bit different than most because you could see this building from much further away than you can see most of our buildings in the downtown. Even when you're on Broad Street, which by definition is wider, you're never going to be as far as you could be away from this building when you're parked, 3 rows back in White Street on the Dublin House side. So it does, if you're trying to attract people to the site, get them there safely, efficiently. You got a broader field of view and maybe dictate something to be a little bit higher up.
I got a question. What color is the second floor facade? Are you gonna paint that a certain color or is it?
Yeah, I think it's This is kind of the slight intent of the color, probably an off-white here as we're showing.
Any other questions for,
Yeah, will the signs be this green color that you're showing, or is that just?
I think this is. Sorry. Yes, I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
the color.
intent.
Okay. Thank you. Oh,
And I think your ordinance allows you the white plus 3 colors, so we're with.
And for the record, the illumination on the sign is not going to be 24 hours a day. It's gonna be turned off, from what I remembered.
Yeah, Vince, I believe Shauna's review memo suggested that it would be closed or turned off from 10
To 7.
7. I guess that was the question.
I guess that's the question then.
Yeah, the applicant says that's a reasonable condition of approval, put so in mind.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, Ann, I'm a little colorblind. What color is this? This sign, is this blue?
It's like a teal.
Teal?
Yeah, it's like a teal type color, yes.
Thank you.
And again, this is a printout of a rendering, so don't take it to heart. You know, once you have the true colors, it may be slightly different, but I think,
It's not gonna be red though.
sorry.
It's not gonna be red. It's gonna be in the blue.
No, we're not gonna get that far. That's right, yes. It's not gonna be red.
okay, any other questions?
I just have a question for Shauna. They mentioned they changed the logo once already. If they want to change the logo again, would they need to come for another approval?
No, if it's a part of their marketing, like it's unique to their company, no.
Yeah, if you have a provision on it that says you can change the logo as long as it doesn't change in size. Really, it's exempt.
I do have a question, Shauna, also. The 20% of the glass, is that done by pane? By consecutive window panels? As far as coverage?
The ordinance is silent on how to really like measure it. The way how I've always interpreted it is by the cutout.
Individual pane?
Yeah,
Okay.
So that means that 20% of the other signs, you can put that amount of space somewhere along the windows in different configurations.
Sorry, what's the question?
Yeah, the 20%, you're allowed to put signs in the windows if they're 20% of
At
the
20%.
overall larger signs.
No, 20% of the window itself
Oh,
is for the window, yeah.
Mr. Scalise, it looks to me like even if you move down the Bills and Brew as low as you could, you'd still be in the window line a little bit.
I mean.
Either way, it'd be hard to get under the windows, I would say.
I'm sorry, say that
It'd
again?
be hard to get under the windows and have that size with that sign.
Yes,
It
and
looks-
I don't think, yes, that's the issue, and I just don't think it would look good if you pushed it down. It kind of feels right with this particular condition because of the blank space that's
I
here.
think it would look like a mouth and a nose, 2 eyes.
I think you're right, Mr. Davis. I was looking back at old photos of what Hobby Masters and Toy Masters had, and they actually had like the text here and here.
Yeah.
And it might have looked okay when they had the big mural up here, which was like interesting. But once that got repainted white and those letters were just there and there, it looked pretty darn boring. And then real quick, just so that you know, what the applicant was proposing in terms of additional logo or coverage on the glass. He likes the idea of this logo somewhere in this vicinity. So if it's 20% on that pane of glass as opposed to the entirety of the glass, he might be somewhat constrained. He'd have to toy with it, but that's what he's thinking of.
Any other questions from the board?
The fit out gonna start.
Well, I think they're rapidly working on.
Working now.
Here now,
It's underway.
so this is just necessary so that they can polish it off and do the exterior.
Okay, any questions from the public for either of these gentlemen? Close the public portion.
Mr. Chairman, if the board members were inclined to approve it, some of the conditions would be compliance with the commitments and promise and representations the team made tonight, compliance with any affordable housing requirements, directive payments, if applicable, compliance with Shauna's memo, outside approvals. And Shauna, do I just say the sign lighting complies with the ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay. And the sign turned off from 10 PM to 7 AM each day. And Sean, I read something, it said sign not internally or externally illuminated.
Right,
Okay. And then,
one of them,
Extra.
one of them is externally illuminated.
okay,
That's the larger sign.
one is externally illuminated. And, okay. And, got it. And then Shauna, your memo had said something about, and I didn't know what this was, compliance with chapter 11 of building and housing. Is that
That's
anything?
just uniform code.
Okay, UCC, getting all permits. And do I need to say anything about the three colors or what they have is just comply?
Yeah, complies.
Okay. And then we obviously, John, it's a stationary sign, it's not interchangeable copy or anything like that. And we had now Sean, is there anything, we don't have to have them, they're not violating any of their planning board approvals, right? I don't want Mark Wexman getting all mad at me. And let's see, not exceeding the 20% threshold. And I think that was it. So if that's acceptable to the board, John, are you okay with those conditions?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
And I guess the condition to provide a final copy of the plan of what including the window signs, submit
Got it.
that to my office.
Got it.
okay. Anybody like to make a motion to approve or deny this application?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
A second.
I think Anna put second it, because that way Anna's a alternate. And I think we have all second.
Oh.
With all due respect to our friend Anna.
And second, so it was first and
Oh, geez.
second. Vince. All right, Ann Torre,
Yes.
Ray Mass,
Yes.
Eileen Hogan,
Yes.
Benny Euro,
Yes.
Karen Lee,
Yes.
Vincent Light,
Yes.
and Paula Cagno.
Yes. Thank you all.
Good luck.
Thank you.
One thing, just a correction on the minutes, Paul realized he was not here for the January 2nd minute. So I need a second for that.
I'll second that. Oh, no, I can't. I wasn't
You
there.
weren't here either.
I was here. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
what was that? Not.
Okay, motion to
Adjourn.
Right. All in favor?
Great.